There is a brand new show that is about the man who created penicillin, and it is now playing across America. Um, right now, I don't see it scheduled for New York, but it's playing all over. We're with two of its stars, Jeremy Rose and Emily Bull. Jeremy, how did you get involved with this project?
Well, it was actually the usual sort of process of via my agent being made aware of it and then going through the whole audition process and in London. And luckily that was a successful process. And here we are, as they say.
How did the show first get its start?
I believe that the composer and lyricist Robin Hiley was approached by a colleague of his who was interested in using musical theatre as a way of bringing before the public this problem that's arisen with Fleming's discovery of penicillin, in that bacteria are now resisting penicillin, and it's become a worldwide medical problem. And it was thought that musical theatre would be a good way of getting, or one way of getting this out in front of the public.
Emily, how did you get involved with the mold that saved the world?
In the exact same way as Jeremy, as he said, my agent became aware of it, got asked to do, a self-tape, and then got called in to audition again. We actually auditioned with each other in the room.
We did.
And then, got the phone call to say that that I got the job. So, yeah.
Now you're playing all over America, but not New York. Why?
We'd love to know that. So the answer to that as well. I think at the moment it's just these two places, they were interested in it. So we're currently playing in Washington, DC, and then we're going over to Atlanta next week as well.
Have you seen anybody change their mind, become enlightened from what you're doing? Jeremy?
I think so, yeah. I mean, we're very lucky that we have, in each venue that we're playing, we have a chorus of made up of local healthcare, scientific community members, and they in turn bring in a certain amount of audience who are in the same field. And yeah, I don't know about Emily, but I've had some very interesting discussions with people who do know what they're talking about, saying that, yeah, it has enlightened them as to the extent of this problem.
What is the problem?
It's simply that. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you go for it.
It's simply that penicillin, which was hailed as a wonder drug in the mid-40s during the war, and Fleming warned at the time that if it was overused, the very thing that it was fighting would start fighting back. And that's exactly what's happened. So this AMR, as it's known, this antimicrobial resistance, has become a worldwide problem in the healthcare community.
Yeah, and we actually had a message on our WhatsApp group last night that there was actually a member of the audience who didn't realize that when you're prescribed antibiotics that you have to finish the course.
Oh yeah. Because
if you don't, then the bacteria become stronger, and then they will start that fight.
Wow. Yeah. So what has this show taught you, Emily?
Gosh, that's quite a question. Yeah, it's taught me the importance of this grand scale thing, something I wouldn't know because I'm not a scientist. I've always known, I guess, to finish the course of your antibiotics because I know that it won't work if you don't finish it, but I didn't realize that it was such a huge problem. It's in like the top 10 biggest health risks to us. This AMR, like I'd never heard of that before. I never knew that it was a thing.
No.
Oh really?
Yeah. No.
Jeremy, what is it the show taught you?
Well, it's the same really. I mean, I was sort of vaguely aware of I knew that Fleming had discovered penicillin. I had no idea of the process or the way in which it was discovered, which turns out was completely by accident.
Yeah.
So yeah, just I mean, apart from the pleasure of doing it as a piece of musical theatre, yeah, I think we've all learned a lot about what went on back then.
Would you find that doing the show right now has more implications when you have all of the vaccine for COVID not being tested and not being done? I'm not a fan of it. I mean, I have to admit, Magda is a fan, I'm not. But would you find that there was more testing back then where there's no testing now?
Specifically to do with COVID?
Well, like, yeah, the COVID vaccines, they weren't tested.
Well,
They were given approval without testing.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I think from the show's point of view, purely from the point of view of the mold that changed the world, coming almost immediately after the end of the COVID lockdown has been quite significant.
Yeah.
And I think it has sharpened the way people look at the whole area. So yeah, I think it has had, it's ironic to say, but it's had a positive effect for the show itself.
Yeah, because people are more aware.
Yeah, because I knew what those were. I mean, I knew that you had to take your vaccines or your penicillin all the way through,
Yeah.
or any kind of medication that you are, mainly because these things have brains.
Yeah.
They think.
Yeah.
Does your show talk about that the fact that these things think?
Not specifically
Yeah,
saying
not to
that
that
they're
extent,
thinking
but
organisms, but
that they will fight back,
Yeah.
that they will kind of resist because they are living. And
They're living.
we actually have 2 dancers in our company that act as the bacteria, and they
Oh, wow.
they create a lot of color and movement, and it shows that they're living things that they can take over.
In the show,
Yeah.
would you say that this is teaching people way more than they've ever learned, or is this stuff that people just weren't paying attention to and now all of a sudden they're aware?
Probably a bit of both.
yeah, exactly.
I
That's
think
exactly what I was
it's-
going to say.
Yeah, I think it's, as we heard last night, there were genuinely people in the audience who didn't know you had to complete your course of antibiotics. That's something I just knew. But then people don't know how penicillin was discovered. That's something that people are learning. And then the resistance as well. I think there's a mix. Obviously,
In-
people in the field know more than the general
Yeah,
public, I would say.
us,
You know,
yeah.
In Britain,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
do they not teach you this in school? Because technically in America they teach you this, but obviously they weren't listening.
I don't know. I don't know enough about the curriculum in the UK, whether it's taught in schools, but I think on a much more general level, I think it's a classic case of taking something completely for granted for so many years.
Yeah.
And suddenly it comes around and bites you, I
Right.
think it's as simple as that.
Wow. What is your background in musical theater, Jeremy?
Well, that's my background, musical theatre. I've done mainly musical theatre over quite a long time now, both in the provinces and the UK, some work abroad. Never worked in the States before, so this is exciting. Yeah, but it's a general musical theatre background, bit of West End touring.
What roles were you known for playing?
I'm known for playing. I think Fleming is the highlight. Yeah. This is the first time.
What have been career highlights? Let's go there. Jeremy, what have been career highlights?
Oh, all sorts of. I had great fun. This is many years ago now. I had great fun playing Frankenfurter in the Rocky Horror Show.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, that was
a
good
bit
fun.
different.
Yeah. Fleming doesn't wear high heels.
Well, they're both doctors.
Well, yeah, quite.
Emily, what is your background in musical theater?
So I did the usual training from a very young age. I started with dance and drama, and then learned that I had a voice, and then thought, oh, I could do all three together, and trained at a sort of prestigious school in London called Arts Ed, or Arts Educational Schools. And yeah, did a degree in musical theatre, and then went on and carrying on my career in that musical theatre.
Okay, what roles have been your highlight?
Hey, I would say Cosette in Les Miserables. That's one of my all-time favorites. I've done a lot of understudying as well, and I've been very lucky to be able to understudy very different parts and different characters in certain things. Notably, quite recently in Matilda, I got to understudy both Miss Honey and Mrs. Wormwood.
Oh, wow.
Characters. Also Sweeney Todd. I love Stephen Sondheim, so anything I can do that's written by him is a plus.
Jeremy, what roles would you like to take on?
Oh, what?
It's a whole list.
They're very limited now.
Oh,
they're
okay.
very limited. But yeah, anything by Sondheim, anything,
I
you know,
agree.
just 2 lines in a Sondheim show is, you know, worth a lot. Yeah, but as I say, it's limited now. But a role I've always loved is The Music Man. I would love to have a stab at Harold Hill in The Music Man, but those days might be gone. Who knows?
Are you going to have a chance to see it in New York before Hugh Jackman?
No, I saw it was on Broadway a couple of years ago, wasn't it, or a few years
Yes,
ago?
it was a very good production of it.
Yeah.
Yes. Emily, what roles would you like to take on?
So I've always wanted to play Christine in Phantom, but I think I've just sort of gone over the hill, shall we say, for that one now. I'm sort of more in the older bracket, so I think I have to say goodbye to that dream. But I would love. There was a production recently of Company where the roles were reversed.
Right, Bobby.
Yeah. So exactly, I'd love to play Bobby. I think that would be incredible. And then any sort of classic musical theatre, any Rodgers and Hammerstein, I'd love to play any of the leads in that.
Jeremy, what would you like audiences to take away from seeing The Mole That Changed the World?
I think we'd like, and I think this is something we've all come to realize over the run of the piece, that we'd obviously like them to go out humming the tunes, but we'd like them to go away and think about what they've seen, you know, and sort of put some of it into practice in some way, and just take away that sort of knowledge from it. And hopefully we're putting that across in a way that'll make that slightly easier.
Yeah.
What's the score like for this show?
Yeah, it's really great.
Lovely.
It's got a heavy sort of folk background. But there's actually some sort of almost Sondheim-esque elements in there that, you know, Rob's been influenced by. Emily
has a beautiful waltz tune that she sings beautifully, which for me is the highlight. Nobody looks at anybody else when Emily's on stage.
Oh, Jeremy.
And Emily, what would you like audiences to take away from your show?
Yeah, pretty much exactly the same thing. I'd like them to learn the lessons that we're trying to get across, and just hope that it's done in a, you know, an insightful kind of way and informative way, so that it's not too, you know, we're hammering it home in a kind of preachy way. We're doing it in a lighthearted way. Is it going anywhere else besides DC and Atlanta right now?
Not that we know of, no, but they don't tell us everything.
No.
Is it being filmed? Like, will there be a version of it that people can see, or live streamed that people can see?
Again, not that we're aware of, no.
Just archive purposes currently.
Wow, that's so sad.
You never know. It's just the beginning.
Well, I wish you luck, and I'm
Thank you.
so grateful that you came to talk to us today.
And
go see The Mole That Saved the World if you're in Atlanta or Washington, D.C.